Hi everyone, it's Rax. As promised, I'm on the PTR all day long, and I'm trying to figure out how we could make all the classes balanced and bring up specifically the classes that are a little bit further behind up so everybody can be blasting in Season 5. So one of the things I was the most excited for is the Chain Lightning Sorcerer, and as a lot of people have reported in the game, on the forums, everywhere, on Reddit, the Chain Lightning Sorcerer is absolutely not up to par. Now, some people have figured out things with the helmet. There's a new unique helmet, which gives you a shitload of damage, which I'm sure is going to be nerfed. And that can be used by tons of different builds and stuff. So I spent today standing in here with my stream, throwing chain lightnings at these training dummies, trying to understand exactly what works and what doesn't work about this new chain lightning build that is supposed to be godly in the next season. And I want to talk through this, and I'm going to send it to Blizzard to try to get the sorcerers a little bit of a boost next season. Hopefully we can get a godly build going here. Okay, so I've got a couple of things here. Here's my little Excel sheet. We probably won't need this, of me throwing chain lightnings, going to my VOD, slowing it down to 1/4 speed, and counting every single throw and hit, and when it came back, and when they split off, and why did they split off, and then the different damages. And we don't need that. Let's just cut right to it. Okay, so let's start with the actual unique itself. So Axial Conduit. It does what it says it does, so that's good. But a lot of people, including myself, don't actually read what it says it does. It says it alternates between orbiting you and seeking 3 enemies. When it returns, it drains 6 mana for each active chain lightning. After draining 66, it explodes. So it says that it drains the mana when it returns. So it doesn't drain the mana when it orbits you. It doesn't drain the mana when it hits the enemies. When you throw it and it's done bouncing around, when it decides to return to you, that's when it drains the mana. If it drains it for the 11th time and you have 6 mana to drain, it will instead explode. So let's watch it. We'll, of course, have the mana here. You can see it removing my mana and then me recovering it instantly. And then finally, we have an explosion at the end. Boom. Okay? That's how it works. So let's look at the next piece. The Chain Lightning enchantment will also drain the mana and will bounce the power with the pants. It'll also follow this logic. Okay, so if we put the Chain Lightning enchantment on, what this says is it's going to automatically form after 83 mana. So what you're going to see is when I throw one bolt out here, eventually it's going to form a second Chain Lightning. That is also going to bounce around and go back and give us a second explosion. So here we go. After a while, you're going to see at the bottom here, it's going to automatically form. Okay, and nice thing about it is the pants actually count as forming the Chain Lightning. There was the explosion, there's the second one from the enchantment slot, and it goes around and then it finally explodes as well. So that's nice. So we're 2 for 2 so far. Then the chance to cast Chain Lightning twice from Tempers works with both the initial Chain Lightning cast and the Chain Lightning spawn from the enchantment slot. Okay, so what does that mean? You can temper chance for Chain Lightning to cast twice. So if I throw a Chain Lightning over here, did you see how it threw 2 of them? But notice the problem that we're going to get here. Do you notice how it threw 2 of them, but only 1 of them is bouncing? But it does, if I walk over here and I let it fade away, it does have a chance to throw twice, okay? You can see that very clearly. It also works with the Chain Lightning that will spawn from the enchantment. It can spawn 2 of them. So that's good. All right, and that's the end of the good news. Now let's talk about some of the problems that Chain Lightning has. When you have your chance to cast Chain Lightning twice, it doesn't interact with the pants. So the Chain Lightning that I throw follows this logic. The Chain Lightning that spawns from The enchantment slot follows this logic, but any duplicated Chain Lightnings don't. And you might think, well, Rax, that's kind of a proc, right? And proc shouldn't interact with the unique. I disagree in this situation. You want to know why? They put it on the pants. Chance for Chain Lightning projectiles to cast twice. Why did you put them on the pants if they don't work with the pants? It doesn't make any sense. So that's one way to make it quite a bit stronger and to get a lot more Chain Lightnings bouncing everywhere. That's one option that Blizzard could consider. Another problem is, as you have seen, when we throw one of these, do you see how long it takes for all of this damage to happen? And then at the end, the explosion, is supposed to be some massive hit, and it really isn't. So the whole process takes forever, whereas a lot of other classes just do their damage instantly. And then this sorcerer has a shitload of mana regeneration and resource cost generation in the Paragon, in the skill tree. I don't have a Starless Skies. I don't have the new unique with the 75% RCR. I don't have those things, none of the Uber uniques. But in general, I would say the amount of mana regeneration that I have on this sorcerer is probably far beyond what most people will have. And it's totally fine if I throw one, it just goes back up instantly. And I could throw another one and another. But after I throw enough of them, you can see my mana gets critically low. And whenever one of these Chain Lightnings does not have the ability to drain 6 mana, it just dies. And you lose all of the damage for that. You see how many Chain Lightnings I just spawned? And look, there's only 1 or 2 bouncing around left over. We lost a ton of damage. So I think the way that they have tuned it and how much it drains is pretty severe unless you're going to get a Starless Skies or farm the other unique as well if they leave it at 75 RCR. There's a new unique in the PTR. Now, here's probably one of the major problems. Here's probably what a lot of sorcerers are really asking for. A lot of these things like, okay, Rax, whatever, but a lot of the Chain Lightning powers and a lot of the sorcerer powers in general fall victim to 2 different things. The first thing is Blizzard doesn't ever just give you a multiplier. Everything for sorcerers for a lot of the entire first year of Diablo have always been so conditional, and they're just usually not straight damage. Now, I'll be honest with you. A straight damage multiplier is probably one of the most boring ways to make a video game, right? You just hit harder. But with sorcerers, how they've been so far behind, especially with a lot of single target builds, if they don't start adding multipliers or start nerfing what they're giving to all the other classes, or start nerfing barbs, I don't know how sorcerers are going to catch up. So when we go in here and when we look at some of the supporting powers for Chain Lightning, its Chain Lightning has a chance to chain 5 additional times. So when I throw it, it might chain some extra times before it goes along through the different pattern. But in general, it's not actually making me do a ton more damage is the problem. Same thing here with the new thing that they added. Chain Lightning has a 34% chance to chain an additional time. It's always like this. It's always chaining an additional time. It's always something. You do damage if you have a barrier. You do damage if they're frozen, if this, if that. Now, again, let me reiterate what I just said because people are going to misunderstand me. I understand that just adding generic damage multipliers is boring. I agree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree with you. But in this case, if we don't get some of these for classes like the Sorcerer and for some of the builds like Shred Druid, for example, which is in shambles, I don't know how you're going to bring it up to some of the other builds. I don't know how you're going to do it. So this alone is usually where you stop for developers. Gaming developers don't usually want you to solve the problems for them. Blizzard is going to pick their own solutions, right? Once you tell them like what you've experienced on the actual playthrough. But in this case, we'll give some high-level ones and see if Blizzard catches their eye at all and if they enjoy them. So the first one, could be lighten the requirement for the pants. Like, for example, if it only drained 4 mana, you would lose less of the explosions. And then if you made it only tick up to 24 times, let's say, then the damage could happen faster rather than bounce, 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 bounce. Damage could happen a lot faster. It would feel better. This one I think is a no-brainer, especially since you put it on the unique itself. It's just make Chain Lightning cast twice work with the pants. And if you do these two in tandem, with each other, then all of a sudden we're going to have probably significantly more damage. But the last part, it probably won't solve single target the way that we need to. We need something with more power to it, more multiplicative damage, rather than just the chaining legendary powers. You want to know what? We don't really need help with AoE. The pants already cause us to explode. Okay, that's probably a line from a porno or something. Veer's Mastery now has a chance to arc. You could take the Fireball enchant if you don't have enough explosions in your life. What am I doing here? You could take the Fireball enchant here. I don't have Fireball with the explosions here. We're not lacking, and then all the chaining that's currently happening. Chain Lightning naturally just moves to different enemies. I'm not really worried about Chain Lightning's ability to AoE down a room. I'm worried about the damage that Chain Lightning does itself. Then another idea that someone from my chat had, I think his name was Relly, something like that. You could change the pants a little bit and have them ramp up. Maybe it could start by draining 3 mana and then do an explosion, and then it goes to 4 mana, and then 5, and then 6. So eventually it's going to drain your mana, but it would give you an incentive to stack as much resource cost reduction in generation as possible. That way you can keep spraying Chain Lightnings, and eventually it's going to drain you, but it just starts ramping up by several orders of magnitude. And if you do it correctly, then you can start to actually destroy things. Would be a cool way to solve for it. Maybe Blizzard doesn't want you to be able to spam infinitely with perfect gear and just be a machine gun of Chain Lightning. They actually still want you to play this resource game. That would be a way to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the end of the video. So what I wanted to highlight here is there are some weird interactions with Chain Lightning that I think are holding back the power of this build. And I think it's in Blizzard's best interest, really, to try to bump this up to an S-tier build next season for a lot of reasons. First of all, people loved Ball Lightning in Season 2. This has the potential to be like a Super Ball Lightning. It doesn't have to be as powerful as Ball Lightning was. It was game-breaking, but I would at least like to see it be S-tier. And people have been dying for a really good sorcerer build, man, especially one that can do some single target damage, and this one absolutely can't. I haven't found a good way, other than using that stupid helmet, which I'm sure that's going to be nerfed, to do some crazy damage. Yes, I could sit here and I could farm really godly gear and masterwork it all and go get uber uniques, and probably all of these would be hitting for, I don't know, 2 million a hit or something. But it's still going to be nothing compared to some of the other top tier builds currently in the game. I think sorcerers deserve it, and so I would like to see them take a closer look at this and make some meaningful changes for Season 5. I started my Shred Druid journey. I will probably make a similar video for that build. I heard from Boiler, who is one of the Maxroll Druid gurus, that Shred is in shambles. So that'll be the next one that we look at, and I'll probably also take a look at Landslide and some of the other things and see what we can suggest over there for Druids. Anyway, just trying to help sorcerers. Let's try to get a good build going for Season 5. Thank you.